What's going on? Welcome to Not a Watch Snob. I'm your host, Bill the Snob, and here we are with Will Brackfield, the creator of the 12X, one of the designers, right?
Yep, that's right.
So, what is your role exactly in Christopher Ward? Are you the only designer? Are you the lead designer?
So my official title is senior designer. So there's two of us that do the main range watches.
Okay.
So me and Matt, who's the junior designer.
Okay, sweet. And what got you into designing watches? What brought you to this?
So I was always into design. I went to university for just general product design. Didn't really think that. Always loved watches. Didn't really think that I could be designing watches because at the time there was like two or three British watch companies, and didn't really consider it. Then for some reason came across a job offer saying, yeah, the Christopher Ward were looking for a junior designer at the time, and basically just pestered them until they let me have an interview, and then now we're 5 years down the line.
Good for you. And you like working there?
Yeah, it's great. It's
Okay.
a bit of a dream job, really.
That's awesome. You live
Yeah.
close to me. I've been to your or your
Oh, cool.
yeah, amazing.
About an hour away.
That's not bad. Take the tube or whatever you guys call it over there.
No. Unfortunately, it's kind of out in the countryside, so
Oh, geez.
do a bit of driving.
Nice. Well, it's a great factory. Where you are located is really nice. You got that little main strip over there. Like, if you go up, take a right or whatever it is,
Yeah.
you got it right there, which is nice. So we'll get into the questions. All of these questions, like I mentioned before, are from fans. So I'm going to read the name of the person who asked the question and then read the question. So this is from Watch Sixto. What made you decide on this design for Christopher Ward? And did you have other options, but they didn't let you use it for that watch?
So we're talking about the 12X?
The 12X specifically, yes.
Cool. So we went through like a whole host of options. So you might know the C60 concept that we did probably 3 or so years ago. So that's kind of where the skeletonization of SH21 started. So a lot of the work was done for that watch. So for that watch, we came up with around 10 designs for the bridge, the bridge work. So kind of the main goal of this was to find a design aesthetic that was pretty clean, because I always really dislike skeletons where there's just like too much going on and it all becomes a bit too muddled. So it was super clean, very kind of linked to other parts of the design. So the triangle that we use often on some watches, and kind of tried to link it all together. And it eventually got decided that that specific bridge design was the best one. We ended up doing like a load of sampling on different versions, and yeah, landed on that one. So used that for the C60, and then decided to continue that for the 12X. But it looks very similar, but actually we reprofiled everything, changed kind of all the bridge like details on the bridges. So for the concept, it was all hand finished, and that meant that every watch took a very long time to make. We could only do, from memory, I think it was 200 pieces, and for this new watch, we wanted to make sure it was an open series.
Okay.
Be done for, basically get it into as many people's hands as wanted it. So that was kind of very important that we could machine finish this one. Say again, sir.
Be able to mass produce that.
Exactly. And so Mike, our CEO, has mentioned, I think publicly now, that we've taken a stake in a manufacturer or like a CNC company in Biel in Switzerland, near our atelier. And we kind of worked very hard with them to find ways to machine finish elements that kind of couldn't be done before, and use a lot of diamond cutting tools to make sure. So if you use diamond tools, you kind of don't get ripping in the material. So if you use something like a carbide tool, sometimes you get kind of this, if you look at it really closely under microscopes, you get this kind of micro tearing.
I see what you're
And
saying.
you kind of get ripples, whereas with diamonds you don't. So we spent a long time finding the best way to kind of do this machine finishing.
Now, when you are looking for a new sort of design, does the retail cost for that product come up when you're looking for that design, or you just build it and put a prototype out there?
So there's always kind of a general feeling of how much it's going to cost, or like what segment of our range it's going to sit in. But the costing kind of usually comes later. So there's always a consideration for these things. So something, obviously the 12X is in the 12 case. And when we were designing the 12 specifically, there was a lot of things that we did to reduce the cost of manufacture. And I think you might know that our general model is 3 times, we sell it for 3 times what we pay.
Yep.
So the industry average, I believe, is 5 to 10 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on which brand. So if we can reduce the price to make it, then the price to the customer is reduced. So that's kind of always a challenge during the process, is finding ways to reduce those costs, but also not reduce the feeling of quality, or make the customer feel like they've got a product that someone tried to save money on, basically.
Not bad. Now, Watch 9 has a question. What is your go-to meal deal?
Oh, that's a good question. I think BLT sandwich.
Okay.
Probably a can of Pepsi Max, which could be controversial. I know
that is controversial.
People love Coke. I know. And then chili heatwave Doritos, which I don't think you have.
We do
but
not
we have
have
them in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you a chips or crisps kind of guy?
Oh, probably crisps.
Okay. You like well, we call them chips, but
yeah,
you like crisps better than chips?
Yeah.
Fair. I'm a French fry guy through and through. I love a good French fry, cheese on it. Oh, that's why I'm in America. There's a reason. But so this is from Omar Kabani. What is challenging to come up with a totally unique and original design without being inspired from other brands? Is it really impossible? I know you guys took inspiration from what is it? I'm drawing a blank now. Whatever. You took inspiration from a couple different watches while coming up with this design. So is it hard coming up with something that's completely, truly unique to your own, just because everything's
it's something that with the 12 specifically, it's one of those things where it's in that category. Like there's a category of watches that was all kind of born from, well, it's 2 watches really, the Royal Oak and the Nautilus.
That's what I was going
with. And so when you've got a whole category based on those watches, finding ways to differentiate yourself without people comparing them to those or other things in the category is always kind of a bit tricky. But we definitely try and do that. So in terms of design language for Christopher Ward, that's kind of something I've tried to focus on quite a lot, is making something very recognizably Christopher Ward. So you'll notice that on all the collection now, all of the hands have the triangular hour hand in different kind of levels of aggression. So obviously you get this D60 where it's like this big triangle, whereas on the 12 it's kind of a lot less obvious, but trying to have this kind of design language that runs through everything. That's something that we kind of trying to do to differentiate, but yeah, it's always a challenge.
Now, this is from Itchy Buns. It's kind of, the guy's name's Itchy Buns, by the way. I didn't come up with that. He was wondering, does it hurt when you come up with a design and people kind of call it an homage design, or it kind of looks like other brands, and the community starts getting into a strife about it? Does it feel like shit or shite, however you guys want to call it?
It's, yes and no. Yes, because there's so many decisions that get made for different reasons, and people make decision judgments on one thing, not knowing the backstory. But then also, I get it. It's when people say, "Oh, it looks like this watch, this watch, this wasn't this watch." Well, if it looks like all 4 of these watches that all look different, I would probably say it doesn't really look like any of them.
I see what you're saying. So
But
it's
yeah,
not an exact ripoff. It's got its own elements, touches of elements from
yeah.
everything. So it's hard to pinpoint, which makes it its own self, right? And now this kind of goes off of what was like the legibility. That seems to be a big thing online. Itchy Buns was wondering, what do you feel there was a pitfall on legibility with the hands kind of falling, as you mentioned earlier, kind of getting blended in with the background of it being so busy?
So, as I mentioned, with the bridge work, we tried to kind of simplify everything to kind of take away too much. So that was meant to kind of help with the legibility. Having the ring around the outside again was trying to make it very clear, like where the eye should go. It's always tricky on skeletons. Like
It is.
skeletonized watches are inherently harder to read.
Sure.
So you kind of got to find little things that you can do that in person helps with legibility. So
Mhm.
something that have you seen the watch in person?
I have not seen it in person, so I
Okay.
can't judge it off anything.
So something we've tried to do is layering. So I really like watches and movements that kind of look like mini cities.
I
So
see.
in doing so, having lots of different layers. So in essence, the hands kind of sit above everything else. So and then you've got the time telling ring sitting just below that, and then everything else is kind of on a lower level.
Mhm.
So the time telling elements of it are kind of detached from everything else.
Okay.
So that was kind of in person. You get a little bit of that separation, which is meant to help with readability.
That's
It's never going to be the most readable watch in the world, but
of
there's
course.
kind of little things you can try and do to kind of make it better.
Have you ever thought about changing colors of hands, coming out with different colored hands, blues and like
Yeah, so we tried a few things. So on the Belcanto, we did a load of tests on that, just to see if we can change colors to make it more readable. And the thing with so you we were talking about design languages before. So a lot of our hands have the different facets, and they have different polish, like they have polished facets. Some have parts that are sandblasted, some linear brushed.
uh-huh.
And as soon as you move away from the very strict set of like plating colors, you then have to start lacquering the hands. So you then lose all of the finishing. If you've got different facets, that all starts to look flat. So you're kind of limited with what you can do
That makes
um,
sense.
without the quality feeling like it suffers.
That makes sense. And what is the largest millimeter watch that Christopher Ward's ever made? And would you guys ever consider doing a 44 millimeter for the people who love those big, gaudy, in your
So
face?
I think I saw you sent some questions through, and I was reading through, and that was the one I didn't know the answer to, so I had to go and ask someone else.
That's
Uh,
fair.
so the person I asked seems to think that it was the C8 regulator, which would have been, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, and that would have been 44 mil.
Okay.
So I think that's the largest watch we've done.
Okay.
And in terms of larger watches, it's kind of been a discussion because obviously we've been going a bit smaller on things. We've got the 42s, but there's been discussions of maybe trying something with a larger, say C60 or
Mhm.
Sealander. But there's nothing in the pipeline, but it's just kind of discussions that are going on.
Yeah, my thought is that the people who usually buy larger watches have lesser bankrolls, if that makes sense. It's always Invictas who buy like the $50 big
Okay.
in your face watches, which maybe I'm judging people off, off the gate, but I just feel like it's always the biggest watch. The guy's not going to spend, 1,200 bucks.
Yeah, I think
$1,000.
there might be some angry Panerai owners out there.
Well, they can
But
go fuck themselves. They're Panerai owners. Let's just be honest. No, sorry, bad joke. But do you secretly think that the watch community, the watch nerds, this is from Poor Man's Rolex, do you secretly dislike the watch nerds, and are they sometimes a little too much for you to handle?
no, not at all. I have a terrible memory though. So often, if I'm like speaking to someone about a project or something, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, you did this because of this," I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did do that," but like I just don't remember these things, and often they're like, "Yeah, yeah, they've got a better memory than me." So I'd say that's the only thing. But no, I don't think you can get annoyed at people that are really passionate about a subject. Like who
Yeah,
gets like it's very rare that someone is lucky enough to do a job where people are so passionate about things they do, and like with passion, obviously you get positive and negative, but still, like, someone cares either way, and that's pretty cool.
Do you ever feel compelled to do things that your bosses aren't having you do? Like, are you compelled to do things that aren't by the market, do something completely crazy and
Yeah, all the
outlandish
time.
for the
All
watch?
the time.
No?
So, like, something that's really good about Christopher Ward is there's no it's quite product led. So in
Mhm.
terms of like the new product team has quite free reign on what we want to do.
Oh, good.
We have to sell all, like, every idea that we come up with. We have to sell to other people, and like there's always challenges that come back, like, and it's really good to bounce things off of people. But it's kind of, we get to brainstorm and think about what we want to do. And so, like, things like the Belcanto came from Frank, who's he's our head technical guy. I can't remember exactly what his title is in Switzerland. And he came to us and said he thinks that he could make a modification to the jumping hour module that we had to make it chime. And I think he was kind of hoping that we'd say, yeah, great, we'll take one of those. And what ended up happening is we said, yeah, great. Can you completely redesign it, change everything, rework the entire thing? And then hence eventually became what the Belcanto was. So kind of, it's, yeah, all the idea, like, it's, anyone can have an idea in the business, basically. And it's very free in that way, which means you can come out with things like the 12X, like the Belcanto, that maybe other companies of a similar size wouldn't do.
Yeah, you have free reign, which is good. You don't feel constricted, and that's something that creativity, you can't really constrict creativity, because then it doesn't become creativity, does it?
Exactly.
It's something completely different. Sword in the Stone. I don't know. Oh, Sword. Because if I could read right, that'd be nice. Sword in the Stone. As a designer myself, I am always interested in hearing about what tools and software other designers are using. Do you do hand sketches? Are you a hand sketcher, or do you mostly use computer software?
So it's a mix of both. So a lot of we have lots of different projects. Some of them being different sizes, different colors, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
of existing projects. Usually that is just straight into the computer.
Okay.
More complex things like the 12X, like the Belcanto, like some of the moon phase watches.
Mm.
It's I always start with the hand sketching. So it's something I've really had to build up my skills. So when I had studied design, it was more engineering based. So there was kind of less emphasis on sketching. And then when I actually got into working, I kind of realized how beneficial it was. So now at the point where I've had to do enough sketches that actually people will get an idea of kind of what I'm thinking from the sketches, and it also allows me to move faster through things. So I always feel like if you're using software, there's always some kind of constraint. Even if the software can do it, there's always, you're thinking, oh, well, it'd be easier if I did it this way, and then actually maybe that's not best for the design. So at least for me, I find if I hand sketch everything first, I force myself into something, and I just have to figure out how to do it in the software anyway.
That's fair.
And actually, what ends up coming out is better for it. So yeah, hand sketching, and then we use a lot of Illustrator for 2D mockups, and then we move into Fusion 360, which is a like CAD software for all the modeling of cases and that kind of thing.
So even the design, the hand sketches are computerized. Like, I suck at doing that. Like, I can never.
No, I do it all on an iPad. And
Really?
I like shade it all on iPad, and yeah.
Do you not feel like it? Like, I don't know. Whenever I drew on like an iPad, I never felt like I was quite drawing. Like, like I feel.
Yeah,
I
I
can't explain it.
can. 1 minute, let me grab my iPad just to kind of show you an example of something. Sorry, you might need to edit this.
You're good, man. No editing. We're just gonna go for it.
Okay. So you
obviously have a stylus, I'm guessing, right? It's not like your hand,
Oh yeah. So this is an example for. So this is one of the barrels.
You drew that, huh?
For the 12X.
Holy shit! Sorry for swearing. Holy shit!
And then this was there's a watch that's coming out soon that this was kind of like a teaser sketch.
Wow.
And then things like this for the
Okay.
hammer on the Belcanto.
Wow. Okay.
So often it will be kind of starting with really scribbly, horrible sketches, like just for me, just to kind of get things out of my head, and then like slowly refining it, and spending like more time on it with sketches like that.
Very cool.
To show to other people so they don't think that I can't draw.
How long does that roughly take you? A couple days, couple weeks?
Oh, no. So something like that is probably an hour to an hour and a half. The iPad makes it kind of quite quick.
That's pretty good. Yeah. If you could redesign one watch, either for production or personal use, could be any watch in the world, what would it be? What would you redesign? What would you change?
Oh. Okay, so mine would be the Tag Monaco.
Okay.
I really like it, but it's too big.
It is. It's monstrous.
It is. So I would thin it like really thin, take like 2 mil off of it, and go for something like they've got these really, I'm not sure of the reference number, but really cool, very simple dials with just a few applied indexes kind of on the side, and yeah. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Perfect. And is there a watch out there that you wish you designed? Meaning, like, damn, I wish that was me.
Oh, that happens all the time. You know what? One doesn't come to mind. But it happens to me all the time. I'm like, that's such a good idea. Okay, so a good example of like a feature of a watch that I think is a really good idea that just launched today was the Ming Diver.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And the fact that the entire dial is the turnable aspect, and it's not just the ring around the outside. I'm like,
that is pretty awesome.
Smart. Like that's such a good idea. So yeah, that's obviously that's not an entire watch, but it happens all the time.
That's funny. Are you friends in like circles of other designers? You guys bounce ideas or specific?
Yeah. I get to meet. So we're pretty lucky. We go to the wind up shows. And I've kind of got to know quite a few other designers from the other brands there, and it's kind of really good to speak to them about kind of their process and how they do things. And it is good.
What advice would you have? This is from Watch Dad. What advice, if any, would you have for someone who wants to start their own micro brand?
Oh, well, I've never done it,
so
advice. It's hard. But I would say try and focus on being different. There's a lot of micro brands out there, so you're gonna have to do something different to kind of cut through at this point. So yeah, try and be different.
Jacob Baginski, I think that's how you say his last name. He was wondering if you guys have any jobs available. That was literally the only question he had.
We're expanding, so yeah. I think there's, keep an eye. I think on the website there's maybe a careers page.
Perfect.
There's plenty of jobs.
He's looking for a job.
Any job.
What else is there? Is there a cheap/easy way to make a watch look more expensive besides just being completely highly polished?
Cheap and easy don't usually go with quality.
Exactly.
I'd say okay. It's not super cheap, but it's cheaper than other things you can do to make watches look higher quality, but it's the print quality.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I see on watches is how crisp are the lines on the print. Have they thought about it in the text, the fonts, and how all the miniature, is there consistency? So spending more time on getting that print quality really good, and also you can do several layers of print, so you kind of build up kind of a 3D-ness.
Yep.
But getting that all to line up is tricky in its own right. So I would say, yeah, print quality is a big one for me.
Perfect. And the last question, I know we have to go soon. This is from Alive and Ticking. What's one design you've not been able to make work? And is there something you find yourself coming back to that's just proving too difficult to come?
Okay, so there was one particular design. We ended up making 3 samples of it and selling them. It was called the Power Glow. Well, we called it the Power Glow internally, and so it was a project that was going on through COVID, and it was using our in-house movement, and it was just after the Moon Glow had come out, and that had done really well. We'd brought out the World Glow, and so we were kind of looking to bring that glow aesthetic to the SH21. And it was like at the first lockdown of COVID, and everyone was like inside, kind of super stressed. And this was the project that I was working on, and it just never seemed to click. And so eventually we ended up making the samples of what we finished on and got them, and we're like, yeah, it's nice, but there was just we didn't think that it would end up doing well. Like, I know we sold the samples, and I know the people that have them love them, and people have been asking us to make more, but it just didn't feel right at the time, basically. But there is a watch that's coming out next year that kind of has learnings from that watch. Like, it's not that watch, and it doesn't look like that watch, but elements of it and learnings we took from it have now made it into another watch. So it kind of wasn't for nothing.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate that. Was all the questions we had. Do you have any questions for me or anything that you were hoping to say?
No questions.
I appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy. Go back to designing some watches. Design a watch with my face on it. It's going to be a bestseller. I promise you that.
Perfect.
I appreciate your time,
Great.
Will. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, my name is Bill. I'm not a watch snob. This is Will Brackfield. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.